I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 128. If you don't already know, I'm Kev Chardello, coming to you on Friday, September 22nd. And what a great week it's been. After a nice 77-point output by the Texas State Bobcats last weekend, a few more commits have gone down, 2 officially, 1 unofficially. We'll get there. We'll talk all about that. Pretty good game. Bring all those recruits out. We were talking about it on the last episode before any commits went down. One commit went down the day of, and we talked about him on the pod, was Brock Riker from Brock High School. I brought up his name, and then he committed, well, I think before the pod was released and everything. So that was timely. But we'll get there. Lots to talk about. We'll do some soccer, volleyball update, recruiting update, and of course, we're going to preview the Texas State football's game against Nevada, the Wolfpack. Get some vengeance for that loss last year. But before we do that, this episode is sponsored by TGC LLC, the GalindoCollective.com, Galindo, GalindoCollective.com, a team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people, planning, and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. If you own property or a business and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com and follow their social media platforms on Twitter at TGC_LLC and on Instagram and Facebook at the Galindo Collective. Shout out to Rick Galindo, true Texas State sicko, true Texas State fan. Got to see him last game, as I mentioned. Always nice to shake his hand. He's with us the whole season, so thank you to Rick and the GalindoCollective.com, Galindo, GalindoCollective.com. We're also sponsored by Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, the most experienced F-Wave roofing contractor in Central Texas. F-Wave is a highly impact-resistant lifetime shingle with stunning designer curb appeal. It is the only roofing product on the market with an exclusive hail warranty. Everybody here in Texas knows a hail warranty is as good as gold. That's something you absolutely got to have in this state. Shout out to new sicko, Carl Larson over there at Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, a converted Gamecock. He is now on the side of the good guys, so hit him up if you need any roofing repairs. BalconesRoofsAustin.com is their website, BALCONES, BalconesRoofsAustin.com. You can call them at 512-937-8805. That's 512-937-8805. And follow his Twitter account, @Balcones Roofing. Shout out to Carl. Really appreciate you jumping in with us. Our next sponsor, Thaddeus Watkins from San Marcos Edward Jones. He is a financial advisor over there, hooking people up with their futures. He is also a former Texas State football player, offensive lineman, so you should know that name already. Does your financial advisor take the time to really listen to you? Is your financial strategy personalized to you and your family? Will your financial advisor be there as your life and financial situation change? When you work with Thaddeus Watkins, your San Marcos Jones financial advisor, he focuses on what's important to you. You'll work together and use an established process to create a personalized financial strategy backed by the advice, tools, and resources to help you reach your goals. Contact Thaddeus Watkins at 737-373-8200. That's 737-373-8200. And at edwardjones.com/Thaddeus Watkins Thaddeus Watkins. No hyphen at the end. The underscore's at the end of his Twitter. On Twitter at Big Thad, BIGGTHADD _. Shout out to Thad Watkins, my guy out there. A real Texas State sicko. The sickest sicko out there. I mean, not only did he play for the team, but now he's out there rooting for him, recruiting out there. So hit up Thad Watkins for any of your financial advisory needs. And our next sponsor, it's a new sponsor, but it's also an old sponsor. Good to have back into the mix, Austin Patchmaster. Austin.patchmaster.com. We remember them, one of our very, very first sponsors. Glad to have them back for a little chunk of this season. Is your ceiling or wall cracked? Need that popcorn ceiling removed? Did you punch a hole in your wall in celebration after the Bobcats lit up the scoreboard last weekend? Hit up my guy, Michael Clements, a true Texas State sicko and a Texas State grad. They are servicing the greater Austin area, but they can also give you referrals to Patchmaster agents wherever you live in Texas, because it is a franchise. So they're all over the state. So even if you're not in the greater Austin area, San Marcos area, you can still hit up my guy, Michael Clements, over there. Contact them at austin.patchmaster.com, and you can call them at 512-200-3888. That's 512-200-3888. Shout out to Michael Clements. Glad to have you back in the mix again, man. Appreciate you jumping back in and believing in us way back when not many were. You know, it was a different time. We've come a long way. A successful football team has absolutely helped with that. So shout out to the Bobcats when you hear all those sponsors. We've got another one in the mix that I haven't announced yet. We'll do a little preview. Shout out to Dennis Redding. We're actually doing some trade. He's got a website where he makes koozies and tumblers, and he's going to send us a bunch of Win Now or Get Bent ones. I've shown you some when I popped the top after the Baylor game. I was holding one of those. There's a little bit of foreshadowing, but more on that later. And then we'll start to tighten it up on these sponsors. We're probably going to get one more, a restaurant, and then we'll tighten it up, because I don't need to be spending 20 minutes reading ads at the beginning. Although it is nice, I feel like we've curated a good bunch of sponsors of small local businesses that root for the Bobcats. That's what I like. It's none of these, any of those that you hear on every pod. Whether it's about stamps or razors or anything like that. It's not just some generic soulless ad. These are people that believe in us and businesses that we want to help get exposure and grow. So very cool. When I envisioned that, it's going to that plan so far. When I envisioned bringing in sponsors and everything, so very grateful. But let's get to these Bobcats. It's way too long on the ad read. I got to tighten that up too. I mean, we're already 7 minutes in, but let's go. Let's jump into these Bobcats. Like I said, we're gonna start with some soccer and volleyball recruiting, and then we'll talk about that game. So let's get to soccer. They're 6-3 right now, 4-game winning streak, 3-0 win over Louisiana to start out conference on Sunday. Nice win there. Everybody got in the mix. I know Zoe Jr. got her third goal, so they're really, really humming right now after they had that little 2-game losing streak. Ever since then, they've won 4 games, so they're cranking again. And they are on the road this week, Arkansas State on Saturday. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Thursday night, and I'm actually recording this on Thursday, so that game will be over by the time you hear it. So they are playing Arkansas State at Arkansas State, and then they'll be back home next week. Volleyball, they're 7-4. They lost their last game. It was to Kansas, pretty tough opponent. But they're opening conference play also Thursday night. So by the time you're hearing this, they have already opened conference play. But they have a 2-game series with ULM on Thursday and then again on Friday. And then they are at JMU next week. Already rolling in conference in soccer and volleyball. I mean, after this game, football's in it too. Southern Miss next week. Getting to it. 2 conference games on the road. Southern Miss and then Louisiana. But let's get to recruiting. Quick recruiting. Not too quick though, because they're doing an awesome job recruiting. I mean, they're doing an awesome job on the field, off the field, around the facility, in the facility. They are. It's a lot of positives for Texas State, and I'm honestly not used to it. I'm looking around, being like, okay, where's the negative? It's hard to find it. I mean, I guess they gave up 34 points last week. They also scored 77. It's hard to really be too upset with anything, especially when you see what they're doing in recruiting as well, where they're looking towards next year and the years after that. And they have 2 official commits this week. They're gonna have a third one. It might come out. It might be out right now while I'm recording. I'm not scrolling Twitter, so I'm not sure. But they could have a third one. Let's talk about the ones that have become official though. Brock High School offensive lineman, Brock Riker, Brock from Brock. I think that's his Twitter handle and everything. That's pretty solid. Shout out to Brock Riker. He was one of the guys that, in fact, all three of the guys that I'm going to talk about visited for the game. So they got to see that 77-point game. Definitely liked that and decided to jump on board. On the other side of the ball is Conroe safety Tice Williams. He also officially announced his commitment. He decommitted from Boise State and then committed to Texas State the next day. It was pretty obvious when he put out that decommitment what was going to happen next, because he was there for Horses and Ferraris back in July. That whole deal, that recruiting trip that they had towards the end of July where they brought out horses and Ferraris and had a whole bunch of other awesome stuff for recruits, and it worked. That yielded a lot of commits, and Tice Williams could be counted in that category, although you'd think the game on Saturday sealed it for him because he came out again, was one of those 200 recruits, coveted recruit, because he has a Boise State offer, a fellow FBS program, and they were able to keep him in Texas. Shout out to Conroe. It's where my mom went. And then the almost commit, the third one, Broken Arrow tight end, Derek Osman. I brought him up on the last pod as well. All three of these guys I think I brought up on the last pod. But Derek Osman was committed to Tulsa, and he decommitted on Wednesday. I'm recording this on Thursday, so he decommitted yesterday. I expect him to commit to Texas State at any time, which would be the Bobcats' 15th commit. And Derek Osman, he wasn't just at the game. He was at the block party like I was talking about. I took a picture of him standing next to Connor Fox at that block party, and you can see he's a big guy, 6'6", big tight end. GJ Kinney and these guys, they love height. They really go for those tall guys, and Derek Osman fits the bill. And early on, you see a lot of blocking from their tight ends. You saw that last year at Incarnate Word. Not a lot of passes to the tight ends. They seem to prefer the blockers. Although we'll see with Sean Shaw getting in there at tight end what that's going to look like. So I could, when you look at Derek Osman, big size, see him fitting that bill, what they're looking for. But real quick before I jump into the preview, I just want to talk recruiting a little bit more. Y'all know I love recruiting. And we have a staff that loves it even more than me, which is incredible because we have a lot to talk about when it comes to recruiting. Felt pretty ho-hum the last few years around this topic. Every now and then it's like, oh, look, they signed another transfer every few weeks or so. But they have 14 official on the 247 page because Derek Osman, unofficial, but that's going to happen. And they're all from Texas. I think that's the most interesting part, scrolling this list. I'm going to scroll it again just to double check. Is that right? Yes. All right. They're all from Texas. I know they've been looking at a couple high school prospects from Louisiana, so that's why I had to double check. And Derek Osman won't be from Texas, but the 14 that they have right now are from Texas. 'Cause Derek Osman, he's from Oklahoma, Broken Arrow. But so that's 14 out of 15. And when they say Take Back Texas, talked about wanting to curate those relationships with these high schools and these high school coaches. They've done that. They've done a really good job of that. And you'd imagine they're going to add some more high school guys. This is a lot, though. And I don't know what the situation is with the scholarship allotment for this class, because last year we saw 53 scholarships were handed out to guys coming in, whether transfers, JUCO, high school prospects. 53 scholarships were handed out. So that's way over that 25 allotment that was there in years past. COVID, the transfer portal, a lot of things have made it so they opened up that allotment where there wasn't a cap on it, basically. There's a cap on the total. You can sign 85 scholarships as an FBS program, 63 as an FCS, but that's the main difference. We've gone over that. But those 85, so essentially you could sign 85 brand new scholarships in 2023. You could have. They didn't. They did 53, and Colorado did 70. Those were the two programs that got the closest to that sort of turnover. And I don't know if that's going to be the case. If the 25 is back, if they signed 53, is that how many scholarships will that leave them for next year? I think a lot of that depends on how many seniors they have. Because again, it's that 85 that's the real number. And they seem really close to the 85. We were talking about it in the summer. I should probably look back and catch up with those numbers now that everyone's here and the roster's all in place and figure out exactly how close they are at 85, because that was an uphill battle for coaches in the past, where they'd have in the 60s or 70s some scholarship guys where they weren't even filling that 85 allotment. Sometimes they get close, but a lot of times they weren't. And can remember, I think it was sometime in June or May we were talking about it, and they were 83. So they're pretty close to that 85, and that matters. That's the caliber of athlete. These aren't, no offense to anybody who's a walk-on, that you still have to be a real dude to walk onto an FBS program. But if they are a athlete that's worthy of a scholarship, that can get a scholarship at other places, you think that says something about their abilities. So you want to have most of those scholarship guys. That being said, I don't know if they're going to be at 25 or if they're going to be at more. If it is just 25, this is a lot of high school players. That leaves you with 10 for transfers in junior college. And I know they are going to shift the focus somewhat to junior college recruits. And I know this because you've seen on Twitter last week, it was a lot of high school prospects that were tweeting out, hey, I just got an invite to the Texas State game. And they tweet a picture of the graphic invite that they received, email, text, whatever. And this week, it's a lot of junior college players. It's a little different. So I imagine they're shifting that focus to junior college. And remember, handful of junior college players they picked up are playing significant minutes now. Terry Webb started every game on the defensive line. Denario Davenport's gotten in the end zone a few times. Has a few fumbles, but he still like what he brings. He's got great hands too. Remember that 50-50 ball against Baylor? That was a good touchdown. So they like the junior college prospects. They like to look after that, and it seems like they're going to bring some more in for this week, so we could see a bit of a shift from these high school prospects. But that being said, they have a lot of offers out. They had a lot of guys who visited last week, so I imagine they're still willing to take a few of these offers. I imagine if Ori Williams, San Marcos offensive lineman, if he wants to jump on board, they'll make a spot for a 6'8", 315-pound prospect. 3-star. He's only a 3-star. That was kind of interesting to me when I was looking him up the other day. But this is turning out to be a really good class. It's a nice balance to it. Before I was talking, if I had a note earlier, it was like not enough linemen, offensive linemen specifically. Since then, they've gotten Tyler Norris and now Brock Riker. And as I was saying earlier, they're looking at guys like Ori Williams and his teammate at San Marcos High School, Brendan Jones. I don't know if Brendan Jones has an offer, but it seems like if they wanted to bring in Ori, that might be a good move to do that. But recruiting, looking great. 2024 class, and even the classes, there's no commits for 25 or 26. It's really, really early for that. But they did bring out a lot of 2025 and 2026 prospects to that game on Saturday, and they saw that 77-point effort by the Bobcats. Great. Again, I keep saying it, but that was a great game to bring recruits to. I mean, just the atmosphere, everything. It was fantastic. But let's jump into this game. Texas State hosting the Wolfpack. Consecutive home games, much appreciated. This is the last non-conference game, and as somebody who covers the team, I just got to say I'm very much appreciative of this non-conference slate, because I think this is the first time I'm 4 for 4 in non-conference. I'm going to be pretty sad next week when I'm not in Southern Miss. I want to see what I can do about making it to another road game this year. We'll talk about all that. We need to get a sponsor to help us out. That Louisiana game, that'd be fun. But it's been great to be able to see all these games. I always feel like live in person you get way more than on the broadcast, just because you can get your binoculars and kind of zoom in on what are the coaches talking about, or what are they arguing about over here, what are they celebrating, who is that who's injured, stuff like that. So that's been nice. And I got one more this week for 4th in a row. Probably the first time I've done 4 in a row as well. So that's been great. But let's talk about Nevada. They have not been great. Nevada, if you listen to the press conference from G.J. Kinney, which I will get you a presser pod this week. I got that already loaded up. But if you listen to that, where there was a little bit of conversation about how to pronounce Nevada. I'm just going to say it naturally, Nevada. So that's how I say it. But I guess it's Nevada. Who knows? But I do know that GJ Kinney was the one who brought it up, and then there was a clip put on Twitter about it, and I guess it's a thing. It really did bother the Wolfpack, the mighty Wolfpack faithful. They called him a tough guy. Look at him saying the name wrong on purpose. Look at this tough guy. I don't think he was being a tough guy. But then again, he played them last year, so maybe this was something he knew that already irked them. It was just a little jab in the side in a press conference. It could be. That doesn't really seem like his style, though. I think he was just genuinely, what's the proper way to say this? I remember they were getting mad at me last year, so I want to remember it. But yeah, Nevada, that's what I'm going to go with, Nevada. So shout out to the Wolfpack. Good for them for standing up on the proper pronunciation of their great state. As somebody who has a first and last name that puts people's minds in a pretzel, I understand. I get it. And it's an uphill battle. That's why I make sure to clearly say my name in the intro. But Nevada, let's talk about them. They're 0-3 this year. In fact, they're on a 13-game losing streak. Their last win was Texas State, 38-14 in Nevada. Hope I said that right. And they have lost every single game since then. In fact, the first game of that 13-game losing streak was against GJ Kinney and Incarnate Word, also in Nevada, 55-41. High-scoring game there. That's down times for them. And even I can remember the feeling around that game last year when the Bobcats going into it. There was a lot of confidence that Texas State was going to go in there and wreck shop and do a lot of great things, and then to come out 38-14, it was right off the bat in the season, and so that was indicative of what was to come. That this was an opponent. I can't remember what the spread was. I know that it wasn't what it is for this one, and we'll get there. In fact, let's get there now. Bobcats are 17.5-point favorites in this game, so it's a big turnaround from last year. Texas State's a completely different team. Nevada, not so much. They have a new quarterback, but it's been a tough go for them over those last 13 games. But 17.5-point favorites. Off the top of my head, I can't remember a time where Texas State was 17.5-point favorites over another FBS program. Maybe going back to like New Mexico State days when they were in the Sun Belt, or I don't know. If you know, help me out. Get in those comments and let me know. But it's a big number to be favored by for Texas State. And my initial feeling, maybe this is the battered down Bobcat in me from over the years, is trap game. Is this a trick? Is this one where the Bobcats are going to get messed up? But then I dove into the notes and I dove into the stats, and no, I feel pretty good. It could be a trap game. There are ways, and we'll talk about that. They have some pieces that they could take advantage of. But this is, and not only have pieces they can take advantage of, this is going to be our fourth game with the Bobcats. And so far the pattern is look really good, not so good. Look really good. Don't know the fourth step on that pattern. Maybe it's not a pattern. Maybe it was that middle game, rivalry game, brutal game. I mean, Frank Harris is still not right, can't play. Nash Jones on Texas State side, he's out 8 to 10 weeks. Nobody came out of that game unscathed. And so that was a really tough game. So maybe it's not a pattern, and that's what the deal is. And the pattern is that this team is still going to continue the upward trend, which I think. That's what I think. I don't think it. I just was kind of letting you know my thinking when I look at it with the pattern and everything going through that. But I still think that this team is on an upward trend, and they're facing a team that's on a downward trend. So it's something they should take advantage of. Underestimate the opponent, it becomes a trap game. So they didn't underestimate Jackson State last week. And, after a big game like that 77-point game, just don't want to see a win hangover like there was after the Baylor game. So the 3 losses this year for the Wolfpack. They started out, they lost USC 66-14. Caleb Williams, USC, They're pretty good. So it's a little understandable. Idaho, they lost 33-6. And some of you probably see that name Idaho and think, oh man, it's a bad team. They're actually have a strong unit this year. Shout out to Dustin Thibodeau at the Fun Belt Pod. He was at the UTSA game, and we were just talking before a press conference. And his knowledge of college is pretty cool. And he was Idaho's a really good team. I remember him saying that, and I was just surprised. He knew Idaho is a good team, but they're good. So 33-6. And then Kansas 31-24. They had their best game. They still lost, but they put up 24 on a Kansas team, a 3-0 Kansas team. So that was, and we'll go through that loss. I almost said win because it was their best game. We'll go through that loss and why it actually wasn't totally terrible for the Wolfpack, and that was their most recent output. So something to keep an eye on. But offensively, really, really down for them so far. 14.67 points per game. Only 5 touchdowns in 3 games this season. 1 passing touchdown. The rest are rushing. 296 yards of total offense per game. 190 passing, 106 rushing. They used 2 quarterbacks in the first 2 games. Semi-dual threat Brendan Lewis. He's been the starter, and he played the entire game in that Kansas game. So they let him loose after trying to figure out which quarterback are we going to go with. It seems they've solidified on Lewis. Either that or there was an injury to AJ. Ooh, I didn't type in. Oh yeah, I did. AJ Bianco. Okay, AJ Bianco. I don't know if there's an injury or why he didn't go last week, but I think they're just more so settling on Brendan Lewis. But Lewis, yeah, his best game was against Kansas, as I was saying. 15 for 22 passing for 113 yards. It's just okay, but 11 rushes, 58 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, I put semi-dual threat by Brendan Lewis because he's not necessarily a dual threat, but he can run. He's not like a Malik Hornsby, but I'd say he's more of a dual threat than TJ Finley. He's somewhere in the middle of that. In the middle, leaning towards more Finley, just because that ability of Hornsby is on the complete opposite side of the scale on there. That guy is something else. But let's talk about Brendan Lewis a little bit. Okay. In that game against Kansas, sacked once, no turnovers. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. I think he has just 1 pick this year. But I'll talk more about his lack of turnovers right now. But a little bit of background on him. He's from Melissa, Texas. So anytime I see a Texas quarterback, automatically respect him. I'm like, okay, the guy's got some game. He spent 3 years at Colorado before transferring to Nevada this year. In 2021, as a redshirt freshman, he started all 12 games, threw for 1,540 yards, 10 touchdown passes, 3 picks. Not a lot of touchdown passes, not a lot of yards, but not a lot of picks. So he's pretty safe with the ball throwing, and only 1 this year so far. He also had 188 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. So, and that goes into the semi-dual threat deal, where he started all 12 games as a redshirt freshman. And that was also when I was reading up on him. Not very many freshmen have started for Colorado, so that's a pretty cool deal on its own. But yeah, that's why I say semi-dual threat, because 188 yards and 2 touchdowns over 12 games. That's not a lot. That doesn't constitute dual threat to me. But he still can run, and he's been showing the legs this year. Maybe he's more confident in running in 2023 than he was in 2021. But that year, also in 2020, he was twice named Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year. So the guy can play. And what happened last year is they went into last year, 6 games into the season, he enters the transfer portal. Don't know what was going on. That was a really bad year for Colorado. They won 1 game all year. It's been well documented, the turnover they've had this year, way more than 1 win this year. I think they already have 3, so triple that already. And so maybe there was some of that going into it, but he entered transfer portal during the season, picked Nevada, and he started every game for them this season. So he's somebody to keep an eye on. He can play. He had highly recruited out of high school. Who knows what the circumstances were at Colorado. Now, he's not a high-volume passer or even a high-volume runner, but he is safe with the ball. And he doesn't get sacked a lot. He's quick enough to get away from sacks. I was mentioning it, 1 sack last week. Not a ton of sacks. For a team that the first 2 games got beat pretty bad, and they've been really down offensively, haven't taken a lot of sacks. I think a lot of that's on the offensive line. A lot of that's on the quarterback. So he probably, it's hard for me to see a scenario where he's going to win the game for them, but he's not going to lose it for them either. He's going to keep them there, but he's going to rely on weapons. Doesn't have a ton of weapons. I was going through their offense, trying to see who the guys that really stand out are. The one that stood out the most to me was Jamal Bell. He's a wide receiver. He's got 21 catches on the season. It's his favorite target, no doubt, because he's got 8 catches, and 5 in the 3 games. With those 21 catches, 201 yards and a touchdown. The only touchdown passing score for Nevada this year. Somebody to keep an eye on, Jamal Bell. Sean Dollars has showed something at running back, but he doesn't have a ton of stats. He has 119 yards and 2 touchdowns this season, but nobody has a ton of stats for them, offensively or defensively. It's been a pretty tough first 3 games for them. But you know, don't underestimate Brendan Lewis. That's mainly what I'm trying to say about this offense is that guy can put it together. He's had some really good games. Former Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week. So he's somebody to be respected. But all in all, not too impressed with their offense, and even less so impressed with their defense. 44.33 points per game through 3 games. So their offense is averaging 14. Their defense is allowing 44. They are allowing 524 yards per game, 355 passing, 169 rushing, 16 touchdowns allowed. So 5 scored on offense, 16 allowed on defense, 6 sacks, and 14 TFLs all year for their front 7, their defensive line. If you want to measure that against Texas State had 6 sacks and I think 13 TFLs last game. They are at 14 sacks and 34 TFLs on the year. I do know that. I think it was 13 TFLs last week. May have been 12. I know they have gotten in double digits TFLs every game, and Nevada has 14 through 3 games. I do want to say they've played some tough opponents. When it comes to USC, Idaho's not bad, Kansas, but Texas State has also played some tough opponents. Baylor, UTSA, a Jackson State team that's coming off 2 SWAC championships. So I'm not going to give them a full pass there. Defensively, it was really hard for me to find some standout players. So we'll talk about Amani Johnson for a little bit. He's their leading tackler with 18. He has 2 tackles for a loss. That's tied for the team lead with 2 tackles for a loss. But he's a pretty good linebacker for them. I was struggling to find names to watch, so let's go with the cool names. And these are all guys who they've done some stuff on the Nevada defense, so we'll definitely see them play. But I like their names. I was going through the defensive guys, and I was like, there's a lot of great names on this defense. So let's go through a few of them. We won't spend too much time here, but number 1, we have Stone Combs. Stone Combs. Love it. It's great. Jackson LeDuc. Guy sounds like a bully in a Disney movie. Jackson LeDuc. That's a good thing, by the way. I want a bully on my team. So no disrespect to Jackson LeDuc. Kane Savage. This one's great, and it's also a guy from Fort Bend Hightower. He's from Houston. So shout out to Isaiah Isima. Isaiah Isima. Last name Essissima. Isaiah Isima. It's a lot of S's in that one. And then I threw Richard Tony Jr. in there just because he's from Arlington. Shout out to they got a few guys from Texas on that team, so watch out for them. When it's hard to find the real dudes on a team, just look for the Texas in their bio. That's a nice rule I have. But let's talk a little bit about Texas State. That was a lot about Nevada. Hopefully you know a little bit more about the Wolfpack now. Some Texas State stuff. The offense is currently tied for 12th in points in the nation. The nation, not the Sun Belt, nation. 44 points per game. A 77-point game definitely helps. But that's pretty interesting. They could be top 12 after having 13 points against UTSA. They have 42 against Baylor, 77 against Jackson State. As far as Sun Belt categories, they are top 5 in the Sun Belt in a lot of categories. They're number one in points with that 44. But in yards, they're fifth, averaging 456 a game. Rushing, they're fifth, 191. Passing, they're fourth, 265. Kickoffs, they're second, 30 yards per return. And sacks, I didn't put they're second, though, with 14. I didn't put that down. Louisiana's number one at 15. I remember reading that. Because I thought for sure when I pulled that up, I was like, Texas State, they're probably going to be tops in the Sun Belt in sacks. But there's Louisiana. They always they always got a tough front seven. I feel like Louisiana always has a tough front seven and a really good running back. This year they have a really good quarterback. Zion? I haven't said his name out loud. Zeon. That's not for 2 weeks, so I'm not even going to look it up or waste time on that right now. TJ Finley. He sat the second half last game, still third in the Sun Belt in yards. He's the only quarterback in the Sun Belt with no picks on 80 attempts. There's a little caveat to that, though, because I should mention Danny Granger for Georgia State. He also doesn't have any picks. He has 79 passes. That being said, anybody over or near 80 has an interception, probably multiple. Davis Brin, who leads the Sun Belt in yards, Georgia Southern, he has 7 interceptions. A lot of yards, though. They throw that ball around. I was kind of talking about it when we were doing the predictions, and I have the Bobcats losing to Georgia Southern. Maybe I'll change that up. I'm not sure. We'll see when it gets a little closer. It's not till a little bit ways down the season, but talk about a shootout. That'll be a shootout. Should be a fun one. But Finley is playing terrific. That's why he's. I know we saw Malik Hornsby had a pretty good game. A really good game. Shouldn't say pretty good. He had a really good game, especially running the ball in that second half. Ran all over the place, but Finley's still the guy. It's not just the stats, it's the leadership, especially when you see him in a press conference after that game against Jackson State, after that game against Baylor, and you hear him talk, and you're just like, that's a leader. Even when you hear him on like the Frary and Smith podcast, shout out to those guys. They do a really good Sunbelt podcast. Go check them out. Frary and Smith, Frary, Frary and Smith, and a really good interview with TJ Finley. He's still the guy. He's the guy on this team, and that's not going to waver until he has a really bad game or barring injury or what the issue is. But this is a terrific problem to have. I mentioned how Nevada was starting out the year not deciding between two quarterbacks, between Brendan Lewis and AJ. I keep forgetting his last name, Bianco. They were trying to figure that out, and it was the opposite of the trying to figure it out that Texas State has. Or Texas State is they have two quarterbacks that can win games, two quarterbacks that can make them successful. Which one do you go with? And that was seeing Malik Hornsby against Jackson State. Now you understand why all fall camp this was a quarterback controversy. It was a tough decision for these coaches. You see that both of them offer a lot and bring a lot to the table. That being said, I want to see Malik Hornsby in this game. If it is a game the Bobcats have in hand, of course we'll see Malik Hornsby. Maybe they put him out and he's earned some reps in a time that isn't in garbage time, in a time that is significant and matters, and you actually need some yards, get something going in the offense, put him in there and see what he's got. I'd like to see him throw a touchdown pass, see him throw a little bit more than 4. I understood why he only threw 4 times. They were not trying to run the score up too much on Jackson State. But the little bit of sample I've seen from Malik Hornsby, if he is limited somewhere, it is in throwing, and I'd like to see him and dispel that, that those thoughts that I have about his game, and he could with some in-game tosses. So I'd really like to see Malik Hornsby get in there. I think that would be terrific. And I want to see some more dominance by the offensive line. It was a good performance last week, but that was the interesting thing is even after the UTSA game, when you talk to G.J. Kinney after that game and we say, hey, no Nash Jones, blocking wasn't that great, huh? And he immediately was like, nah, I wouldn't blame it all on the blocking. There were things the quarterback didn't do. They didn't look off a defender. There was assignments the running backs didn't pick up. And so he was very quick. Almost, this isn't what he's saying. I don't mean to put words in his mouth, but he was like, it's lazy to look at it and say, it's just the blocking's bad, when there's so many other little things that go into it. And he was kind of right, because then even on the flip side, after the win at Jackson State, hey, 77 points, looking pretty good. Offensive line, Trenton Scott there at left tackle, great job. And he said, yeah, it was a great game, but it wasn't all on the offensive line. The quarterback was doing his assignment right. The running back was hitting his assignments. The receivers were running great routes. So I like that mindset of it's not when it goes wrong, it's not just on this unit. When it goes right, it's not just on this unit. But that being said, even going back and watching that Jackson State again on replay, the offensive line really held up. It was a terrific job. It's probably the smallest defensive line they've faced this year. There's a little bit of that, but I haven't seen too much from Nevada's front seven to think it's going to offer a tremendous issue for this offensive line. I really like Trenton Scott at left tackle. I like this unit. Bray Walker at guard. Hameto Abibo. So we've got that. Oh, I'm sorry, Jameto Abibo. We got that down this week at the press conference. Jameto Abibo. No soft J. Don't know why it said that. And that was a long saga. And it took until we finally got to see him at a press conference. But Jameto Abibo at right tackle. Caleb Johnson at center. Dorian Strawn's been doing a lot of things. They've even moved Strawn to tackle sometimes when they've needed. I think this offensive line is really starting to gel, despite losing arguably its best player, team captain Nash Jones. I think that's a testament to them going out and recruiting, and them also believing in guys like Trenton Scott and Jaden Smith and some of these other guys who have been here before, and believing them and letting them get in on this offensive line. Believe in them enough to throw them in the rotation. That's where I was trying to go with that. Even the defensive line I mentioned earlier, 34 TFLs, 14 sacks. It is there. They do have some penalties. They do let some big plays go. But I don't think this is the type of defense that's ever really trying to pitch a shutout. I mean, I'm sure they'd like that if they did, but that doesn't seem to be paramount to them. It's to play man coverage with the DBs and wear them out with the DL. Some of you may know, I'm a Raiders fan, a dirty Raiders fan. Tough loss for the Raiders last week. That's how it is pretty much every week, though, at least my lifetime. And before my lifetime is really when I fell in love with the Raiders. My dad, huge Raiders fan. So that's a big reason as well. But I would read a lot of books, a lot of Al Davis, and he had a lot of theories that worked probably more so in the old school day, but some of them that I still feel work today. And one of those theories that I feel works today is I'm paraphrasing. I don't have it verbatim right here. It's just something I was thinking about the D line. But he would say the first 5 to 10 plays, the quarterback needs to go down, and he needs to go down hard. So he wants his defense to hit that quarterback soon, and then hopefully often, but soon, just to set that tone. And I think that mentality is something this defense also shares, where they want to set the tone, they want to hit the quarterback. They're not going to stop every play, and it's not going to be perfect every single play, but they're going to get after you. They're going to get in that backfield, and they're going to do everything that they can to disrupt the flow of this offense so that they can't keep up with what Texas State's offense is doing. Texas State, their plan is to go down, march, score every play. So maybe if you stop every other drive on offense, that's a 77-34 win. Boom. So that's what they're looking to do. They want the quarterback to go down, and they want him to go down hard. I don't know if they also feel the first 5 to 10 plays, but I like that. That seems like a good barometer that they could reach. Even thinking on Al Davis, another thing with this team, another mentality that I feel like they share is when he would talk about offense, he would say, we don't take what the defense gives us. We take whatever the hell we want. I'm pretty sure I have that one verbatim because I love that one. That's another thing that I feel that this offense does. But although they do take a little bit of what the defense gives them. If they're coming inside, Bobcats going outside. If they're leaving the middle open, boom, Bobcats are going to hit that. So it's a little less so, but I feel like there's a little bit of that mentality. Mac Leftwich, G.J. Kinney, we're going to take whatever the hell we want, not what the defense gives us. But I really do. I am excited. It's been a good week after a tremendous win. After getting 3 commits, it's felt good being a Texas State fan. It's nice to walk around and feel positive about the prospects surrounding this team, on the field, off the field, all of it. It's a really great time to be a Texas State football fan. That's for sure. No doubt about it. Shout out to you sickos. Hope y'all are feeling good. Does this feel good to y'all too? It's got to. I don't even need you to answer that question. You already know it. Yeah, I guess if I were to give a prediction, it's a 17.5-point spread, like I was talking about. Texas State is favored. I think that I'm confident that they can cover again. They've covered all 3 weeks early this season. I say 3. First 2 weeks, I don't know what. I still don't understand. Is there spreads for FCS? I was trying to look it up. You could see on like ESPN where Texas State was favored by 97%. And that might have been too low, but they were favored by quite a bit there. But I couldn't find like odds for it on that one. But Texas State they did cover against Baylor and they covered against UTSA. I think they'll do it again this week, even though it's a big fat one, 17.5 points. The Wolfpack are down pretty bad, and the Bobcats are trending upwards. They're going to be back at home. Seems like it's going to be another good crowd. I have a really good feeling for the Bobcats. I don't know if it's going to be 77 points. I have 48-28 is what I wrote down. I still think they're going to give up some points. I think Brendan Lewis for the Wolfpack being back in Texas, he's going to have his best game. I don't want to say a great game, but I could see him having his best game. After being in Colorado and then Nevada, he hasn't really gotten to play in Texas. So I can imagine a lot of his family are going to try to make it out to this game. The ones that can are going to try to go see him, and he's going to want to put on a show. And this is a defense that prides itself on getting after the quarterback, and he's a quarterback that prides himself on getting away from the defense and not turning that ball over. So that's why I still have them putting up 28 points. Although I do think that this is it's going to be a pretty hefty win for the Bobcats. Once again, double-digit win, 20-point win is what I have officially. Could be more. We'll see how they're flowing, they're feeling going throughout the game. But even with that 28, I feel like a lot of that's going to be late for Nevada. It's going to be, and seeing how they started out fast last week, they scored within 2 plays against Jackson State after the sputtering out the gate the first 2 weeks, 3 and out against Baylor. 3 of the first 4 drives were 3 and outs against UTSA, and that 4th one that wasn't a 3 and out, they eventually was a turnover on down. So it was the first 4 drives that UTSA game weren't great, and asked G.J. Kinney a lot leading up to Jackson State about fast starts, and he's like, yes, absolutely, got to do the fast start. And then even after the game, he talked about, imagine if we didn't start fast and get that lead, we wouldn't have been able to throw out all these guys and get this evaluation. So I think they're gonna try to start fast again, take advantage of a down opponent, and step on the throat as early as they can. It's all predictions. It's the best part about sports is you never know. You never know what's going to happen. I think my prediction, I remember my prediction for UTSA was 44-41. Couldn't have been more off. I was like, it's going to be a shootout. Texas State's going to win. It's 20-13. Texas State lost. And then last week, what did I say? 38-22, something like that. It's way off. It's way off there. More points for both sides. So UTSA was lower scoring than I thought, and this last one was higher scoring than I thought. Although I can't imagine many people envisioned 77. Maybe G.J. Kinney and some of those Incarnate Word fans that saw that last year envisioned that game. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. See if they can do it again. They light up that scoreboard. Looking forward to the light show. Or not really a light show. I call it a light show. They change up the lights. Extra fireworks. Way more fireworks when they score. I'm excited to see the atmosphere from last week replicated. See if they can do that. You can imagine after a win, some of those fans will show up. I know there are some complaints about the broadcast. So some of you aren't at the game. You have to watch it from home. Shout out to Brent Freeman. Does a terrific job. I know it's not anything on him. It's with the I think it's the placement of the cameras. When I was watching the replay, it might be a little too high. Maybe there's somewhere they can figure that out. I don't know. I do know that they have a lot of changes they're enacting, and that one is a little further down the list than some of than the end zone complex and some of these other issues that are up there. But that's one that is definitely important because this is what everybody sees that isn't at the game. It's their perception of Texas State. And if that's low quality, then the perception of Texas State is low quality. So that's something that hopefully gets corrected. It looked better with the new lights. I'll say that. It was more lit up and everything. I think it's just maybe camera placement or zooming in with the cameras. It's more cameras than anything else. And I'm sure there are people who are more experts at this. I should consult with the Wizard, Zachary Webb. I'm sure I need to watch a game with him, see what he has to say. But I hope for everyone's sake who watches the game, for Brant's sake, it can be fixed up a little bit because he does a really good job. It's definitely not an indictment on really anybody specific. It's just something that has not upgraded over the years and needs to now that things are starting to go in the right direction. Probably not something they can fix this year. Maybe they could. Would be nice, but at least challenge them to figure that out by next year. But I'm looking forward to the game. Hopefully y'all are going to be there. If you are there, reach out to me. I want to come shake some hands, see some of you sickos out and about. It's going to be a fun game. Fun atmosphere. But all right, that'll do it. It's enough for me for this one. I feel like you are all sufficiently informed on the Wolfpack and recruiting and all that other good stuff. Check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/WinNowOrGetBent. Get lots of great articles talking about the Bobcats and recruiting updates and all that good stuff. And it supports the pod. $5 a month helps us grow, helps us hopefully eventually get more people involved, a bigger staff. And there's just going to be more and more we can do with that Patreon page. Same with our merch site, WNOGB.com. Lots of cool hats. Oh, I got one right here. I'm reaching for it. Let's see if I can get it. There it is. If you're watching on YouTube, you see me holding up the hat, not wearing it this time. There you go. I love that one. I got the bucket hat somewhere. I should have put that within arm's reach. But yeah, we got shirts, wearing the shirts as well. We got mugs, and we are going to be introducing some more new merch coming up. It's going to get a little colder, maybe something in that department for you. I won't totally spoil it, but stay tuned, sickos. Check out our YouTube channel if you're not watching on it right now. If you're listening to the audio version, Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube. Hit us with a nice subscribe, a nice subscription from you. Subscribe to us. I'm getting that. I'll get it down. Don't worry. And follow us on Twitter at Win Now or Get Bent on Twitter, and on Instagram, just the abbreviation at WNOGB. Like, subscribe, comment. Spray painted on a wall, spam links to your friends, spam links to your enemies. We'll take your enemies as listeners. We don't mind because all that stuff, it helps us grow. If you're tired of me telling you, hey, come spend $5 here, come buy a hat there, and you're like, I want to support, but I want to do it for free. Subscribing to the pod helps us on the YouTube channel, on the audio version with Apple and Spotify. All that helps us. So do comments, likes, all that good stuff. So help us any way you can. We greatly appreciate it. appreciate all of you putting up with the sponsors and me throwing all this other extra stuff at you through the pod. I know a lot of you sickos have listened the entire, 2.5 years now. This is the third season that we've had Win Now or Get Bent going, and so a lot of that is new this year. I appreciate all of y'all's patience with that and allowing us to do these things that help us grow. Thank you to our sponsors, TGC, Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, Thaddeus Watkins at Edward Jones San Marcos, and Austin Patchmaster. Great to have them back. Thank you to the wizard, Zachary Webb, always working hard, getting these things out. He put out that awesome recap video. Not as many views as I wanted. It stinks because we can't put it directly on social medias for copyright reasons, from the school and ESPN. We can put it on YouTube, but we can't put that video directly on there. Good chunk. It was like 400 or so people watched it, and that's one that Zach worked so hard on it. I really wanted more of y'all to go see it. So go check that out. Go share that one. Spread that one around for us, if you will. But thank you to the wizard, Zach Webb, always working hard. He'll be out there again, 4th week in a row, him out there shooting a full game. So we'll see. He may need that little break when Southern Miss is coming up. But also, and thank you to the sickos, of course, for tuning in, supporting the pod. This whole thing is impossible without you. I would be in a room talking to myself. I kind of already am. I am talking to myself right now, but somebody will listen to it later. I know that because of you, because you all tune in, you support, and this thing is growing, and it's growing at a perfect time. It seemed like we introduced video and all these extra accoutrements to the pod right in the nick of time before they're having a good season. But hey, 2-1, it's still early. Stuff can happen. But man, I'm pretty confident in this team. I am when I look at them. And even if they get this 3-1 start, non-conference 3-1 start, haven't had a 3-1 start since 2013. Shout out to Colton McWilliams, San Marcos Daily Record. He threw that stat at me. So 2013 was the last time 3-1. But they went 3-1 and finished 6-6. So it's a long season. A lot can happen. I will say the proof of concept is there, though, so it feels good. This was supposed to be my outro. What am I doing? I can't stop talking about Bobcats. But when it's positive, man, I can't shut up. You wind me up, and I just go like one of those little toys. So, in conclusion, excited about this team. Thank you, sickos, for tuning into the pod. I appreciate y'all. Be on the lookout. We'll have more content, especially on the YouTube channel. We're going to put some more stuff out there. Really need to get an interview, break up that go chamber that is me on this pod. Want to have some people on, talk to people. Maybe have the wizard on soon. We need to hear from Zach Webb. He's come a long way since the last time he was on the pod. I think that was New Orleans. This guy's a grizzled vet these days. But all right, everybody. We'll see you Saturday. Come out to the game if you can. Reach out to me if you're there. I'll come see you. Come check out your tailgate. I know Baseball Nuts got a tailgate. I'm going there. Apparently it's on the good side with the alum, not the crazy students. Off Falk Arena. This is more by the baseball field. But all right, everybody. We'll see you Saturday. Win now or get bent.